I lost my mom Alex to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war. And I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. It happened on a random Tuesday night. Dinner was normal chicken, rice, the usual chaos of a blended family with 6 kids. The younger 2 were arguing about who got the blue cup, the older step-siblings whispering and giggling, and I was thinking about homework. Then Julia cleared her throat and said the sentence that froze the entire room. "Jonathan, I think it's time we talked about what Alex left behind. Financially." My fork hit the plate. Dad's face went blank. He said quietly, "Julia, that's not your business." But she continued, like she was discussing budgeting or grocery lists. She said, "If we're going to manage a family this big, I need transparency. I can't be the only one in the dark about assets." Assets. That's what she called my mom's life. Dad pushed back firmly. "No, drop it." Julia's smile twitched, but she didn't argue further. She just nodded and said, "Okay, I just asked." But it wasn't just a question. I could see it in her eyes. She was fishing. And the fact she asked in front of all of us made my stomach turn. Later that night, I overheard Dad on the phone with my grandparents, my mom's parents. "I think Julia's going to start digging," he said. The next morning, my grandparents were at our front door before anyone had eaten breakfast. Grandpa pulled me aside and told me, "Your mother trusted us. What she left for you is protected. No one can touch it, not your dad, not Julia, not anyone." That was the moment I realized this wasn't just awkward family tension. Something had been set in motion. If your stepmother asked about your late mother's inheritance at dinner, what would you do? Comment your reaction.
I lost my mom Alex to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. The next day, Julia waited until Dad left for work to try a different tactic, her fake sweet voice. She knocked on my door gently. "Tommy, can we talk?" I already knew where this was going. She sat on my bed, hands folded like a kindergarten teacher. "I didn't mean to upset anyone last night. I only want what's best for the family. You know we have 6 kids to take care of." I said nothing. Then she said the line that exposed everything. "If we combine everyone's assets, including yours, I could manage it responsibly." Combine? Combine? My chest tightened. I said, "My mom's inheritance is for me. It isn't for you. It isn't for the family." Her smile vanished instantly, like someone flipped a switch. She snapped, "You're being manipulated by your grandparents. You're a child. You don't understand finances." Right then, the front door opened. Dad walked in early. "Julia," he said sharply, "stop talking to Tommy about money." She stood up, furious. "You're excluding me from family matters." "I'm his mother, too." Dad cut her off. "No, you're crossing boundaries." She stormed off and slammed the bedroom door so hard the frame shook. For the first time, I wasn't scared of her. I was angry, because now it was clear this wasn't about the family. It was about control. Is Julia being a responsible stepmom or a manipulator? Drop your opinion below. I lost my mom Alex to breast cancer, and now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. 3 days passed without another mention of the inheritance. Peaceful, too peaceful. Then Julia found it, an old life insurance binder of my mom's, buried in a storage box in the laundry room. She walked into the living room, holding it like she discovered a hidden vault. "So Alex did leave money," she announced. Dad's face drained of color. Julia dropped the binder on the coffee table. "You've been hiding this from me." "From the kids." Dad clenched his jaw. "I haven't hidden anything. You are not entitled to that information." Julia scoffed. "We're married. I have a right to know the financial picture of this family." Dad raised his voice, something he rarely did. "This is not yours to touch." Julia's voice rose to match his. "Why should Tommy get a secret trust? Why should he have money sitting somewhere while the rest of us struggle?" The word secret trust made my stomach twist. Grandma was right. Julia wanted it for herself. Dad slammed his fist on the counter. Enough! The house went silent. Even the younger kids stopped playing. That night, Julia slept in the guest room. I heard her crying, but it didn't sound like sadness. It sounded like anger, frustration, defeat. Grandma called me later and said, "Your mother left a plan. We won't let anyone destroy it." Something was building. A storm none of us were prepared for. Should Dad have shown her the binder to calm her down, or kept it private? What would you do? I lost my mom, Alex, to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. Grandma called Dad and asked to speak to him privately. He agreed. Julia insisted she come too. Grandma said no. Julia tried anyways, arriving at my grandparents' home, stepping out of the car with this self-important posture like she was the CEO of the company she didn't own. Grandma opened the door only halfway.
"Julia," she said, "this meeting does not involve you."
And she closed the door. Dad was already inside. Grandpa had legal documents spread across the table, papers I'd never seen. Trust papers, wills, asset protections. They explained everything in detail. My mother set up a trust with strict airtight conditions. Only I had access to it when I reached adulthood. My grandparents were the legal guardians of the trust. Even my father couldn't touch it. And Julia, being a step-parent, had absolutely zero standing. "Not 1 inch," Grandpa said. "If she continues pushing, we will get a restraining order preventing her from contacting Tommy about finances." Dad put his face in his hands. "I'll keep her away from it," he promised. When we returned home, Julia demanded an explanation. Dad told her bluntly, "They don't want you involved, and neither do I." She exploded. "This is an attack on me. I'm being treated like I'm not part of this family." Dad said quietly, "You're the one making yourself an outsider." Julia didn't sleep in the same room that night either. Did my grandparents go too far shutting her out? Or were they right to defend my mom's wishes? Comment your stance. I lost my mom, Alex, to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. The fallout hit the kids next. My 3 older step-siblings, ages 13, 14, and 15, started acting cold toward me, whispering, avoiding me, giving me looks like I was the villain in the house. Finally, one of them cornered me and said, "Mom says you're hiding money that belongs to all of us." My heart dropped. Julia wasn't satisfied attacking my dad and my grandparents. Now she was turning the kids against me. I told them the truth. It's not family money. It's what my mom left for me. She died for God's sake. But kids believe their own mother. They accused me of being selfish, of hoarding some mysterious fortune, of not caring about the family. Meanwhile, my 2 younger siblings, dad's kids with their mom, were only 4 and 5. They didn't defend me. Not because they didn't love me, but because they were too small to understand what was happening. They cried when Julia cried. They hid behind her when voices got loud. They clung to her leg like she was the only safety they knew. And seeing that made my chest ache. They didn't deserve to be dragged into this. Julia watched the arguments between us unfold with this eerie calmness, almost satisfaction. Dad came home to chaos. Kids yelling, kids crying, accusations flying, and he grounded everyone, even though the only person who deserved punishment was standing behind him pretending to be innocent. If your stepmom turned your siblings against you while the little ones watched scared, what would you do in my place? I lost my mom, Alex, to breast cancer, and now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. Julia decided if she couldn't get to the inheritance directly, she would attack the people guarding it. She accused my grandparents of lying about the trust. She said they were hiding money and manipulating me and Dad. Dad said she was being paranoid. Then Julia escalated it. Again, she said my grandparents were committing financial abuse by isolating family assets. That phrase alone told us she had been Googling legal terms, poorly. Grandpa didn't play games. He showed up at our house with an actual lawyer. The lawyer laid out the trust documents and said, "Mrs. Julia, you have no legal claim, right? Or authority to access or even inquire about this inheritance. One more false accusation, and we will pursue legal action." Julia broke down crying. Not the emotional kind, the cornered kind. She shouted, "I'm being treated like the enemy in my own home. I'm the one raising 6 kids." Dad replied, "No, you're the one tearing them apart." The house felt colder that night. Julia avoided everyone. The older step-siblings avoided me. The younger kids clung to Julia, too young to process any of it. And for the first time, Dad slept on the couch. Was Julia desperate, delusional, or dangerous at this point? What do you think? I lost my mom, Alex, to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. The storm broke when my grandparents finally revealed the truth. Something even my father didn't know. Julia wasn't just obsessed. She was desperate. Grandpa sat us down and said, "Jonathan, you need to know this. Julia had heavy debt before she married you. Debt, not the small kind. We're talking maxed out credit cards, personal loans, medical bills, unpaid taxes, and a nearly defaulted car loan." Dad's face turned pale. He confronted Julia privately, but the walls are thin. I heard everything. She said, "I thought we were a team. I thought you'd help me." Dad said softly but firmly, "A team doesn't mean stealing from a dead woman's son." Julia cried. But the tears didn't sound like remorse. They sounded like panic. She avoided me completely that night. Not out of guilt, but because she knew I knew the truth. The house felt like it was slowly breaking apart. Dad barely spoke to her. Grandparents were ready for legal war. The older kids were confused. The younger ones were scared. And me? I was just trying to protect the last piece of my mother. Would you forgive Julia if you found out her motive was debt? Or is that unforgivable? Share your take. I lost my mom, Alex, to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Update. Eventually, the pressure broke something. Julia cornered Dad and demanded proof of trust. Proof meaning she wanted access. She said, "Show me the documents. If you truly love me, you'll trust me." Dad finally snapped. "Julia, this has never been about trust. It's about greed." Her scream shook the walls. She accused him of betrayal, of choosing me over the family, of letting my grandparents control our marriage. Dad said, "Our marriage? Julia, I don't even recognize you anymore." She threw a picture frame. It shattered. The younger kids cried. The older ones watched in shock. Dad told her she needed to leave the house, temporarily. Just a separation. Until things calmed down, he said. She refused. Screamed. Cried. Begged. But the decision was made. My grandparents came. The lawyer came. And Julia was escorted out with her clothes in a small suitcase. She yelled, "You'll regret this. All of you!" The door slammed. The house fell quiet. That night, Dad apologized to us. For everything. But the damage was already deep. If you were Dad, would you have separated sooner or waited like he did? Comment your decision. I lost my mom, Alex, to breast cancer. And now my stepmother, Julia, is demanding to know about the inheritance she left behind. My dad is furious. My grandparents are ready for war, and I, Tommy, 16, am fighting to protect the only piece of my mother I have left. Final update. The separation didn't fix anything. Julia kept calling Dad, demanding apologies, demanding money, demanding access to the trust. She said the separation was cruelty. She said Dad owed her for years of service raising 6 kids. Dad stopped answering her calls. Then the final blow came. Julia attempted to file a complaint claiming financial abuse on Dad's side. The lawyer shut it down instantly. But something changed in Dad's face after that. He realized there was no salvaging this marriage. 1 month later, Dad filed for divorce. Julia didn't take it well. She screamed outside our house. She tried to guilt the kids. She claimed she was being discarded. But the truth was simple. She crossed every boundary. She turned the kids against each other. She attacked my grandparents. She tried to take what wasn't hers. The divorce was granted quietly. Life at home slowly healed. The older step-siblings apologized. The younger kids stopped crying as much. Dad started breathing again. And me? I visited my grandparents, and Grandpa handed me a small wooden box. Inside was a letter my mother wrote before she died. It said, "This is for you, Tommy. My love, my memories, and my protection. No matter who enters your life, remember, I made this for you." I cried harder than I ever had. I didn't lose anything in this battle. I protected everything.